as I was telling you before, you know, a lot of us, we stay, and I'm going to use the word relationship because I don't want to talk about, you know, addiction. I don't want to use different words. So a lot of us, we're in a relationship with something, whether it's a person, whether it's addiction, a drug, whatever your relationship is. A lot of us, we stay in bad situations, and it's hard for us to move on because of what we associate that person with, what we associate that habit with. And so you might be asking yourself, how can I allow myself to stay in a situation that's bad? How can I not move on? Why am I staying in a situation? I know for a fact this person is giving me abuse. This habit is leading me to pain. This situation, this action is leading me to heartbreak. And you can't move on, right? You're stuck there. Trust me. I know how it feels. Let me tell you something about a habit. A habit is formed when we identify that a certain action brings us this feeling. All right. A certain action brings us happiness. A certain action brings us pleasure. All right. There's nothing wrong with the feeling, but the problem is the action can become dangerous. Period. In life, I personally believe this, that we are programmed to pleasure and pain. All right. The reason why we do things, whether it be pleasure, joy, happiness, the reason why we do certain things because we associate something, right, that action, and saying this action brings me this feeling. This action brings me joy. This action brings me happiness, right? And then the reason why we don't do things because we say this action brings me pain. This action, you know, brings me heartbreak. This action brings me trouble. The problem when we come in, the problem that we have, that we face, is that when we are wrapped up into a situation, all right, when we're wrapped up into a situation, we think that this person, I'm gonna use this relationship, is bringing us pleasure, but it's really bringing us pain. So what are we doing? We're misassociating, we're mislabeling, right? We have an identity that's not true. And so what I want to challenge you today, for you guys that can't move on, is to ask yourself, what's the reality of my situation? What's the reality of it? I'm not talking about the past, right? Because in the past, you got to realize you've conditioned yourself. The reason why we have habits is because you condition yourself to believe this person, this situation brings me this pleasurable feeling. That's why I always tell people, watch what you try once, because you can become addicted. And so our mindset has already labeled this person, right, to say this person brings me pleasure, and rightfully so, because at the beginning of things, guess what? It's probably great. It's probably outstanding. It's probably like good. You know, you're smiling, you're happy, you have joy, you have all these things. But the problem that comes in the hand is this: as time goes on, right? Whether it's abuse, whether it's cheating, whatever it may be, right? We forget because we're so wrapped up in the pleasure, we forget the pain that this person is causing us. And so I always talk about this, right? I always talk about the potential of a person, but sometimes you got to ask yourself this: what's the reality of who this person is? Who they were doesn't mean who they are. All right? Who they were doesn't mean who they are. Seasons change, newsflash, and people do too. Okay? So what you have to do is you have to change the association if you want to move on. And this is just one step of moving on. I can talk about a lot of steps, but you got to change the label that you put on this person or situation or habit, and you have to change the identity of this person, but you have to change the association. Because in your unconscious mind, you've already programmed yourself to say this person or this habit, right? This addiction, whatever it may be, whatever you're going to, this action is bringing me pleasure when it's not. And you're holding on to what used to be, that you're ignoring the reality of what it really is, right? So what you have to do is you have to change your identity. I mean, you have to change the identity, their identity, not yours. You have to change their identity. Know the reality of the situation. I'll put it like this. I use this illustration. I use this illustration on Snapchat. I said, if I had a cell phone, right? If I had a cell phone in my hand, and every time I picked up the cell phone, right, it brought me pleasure, right? It made me feel great. It brought me happiness. I would continue always pick up that cell phone. Some of y'all probably laughing because with your cell phone, it brings you just that, right? Let's say on the flip side, every time I picked up this cell phone, it like shocked me, electrocuted me, right? Every time, my first time picking up it electrocuted me. I wouldn't pick up that cell phone again. Why? Because I have now linked that cell phone with pain since the beginning. The problem that we face It's simply this, okay? And I'm going to put it to you like this. So with that cell phone, I'll paint this picture for you. Even if you picked up that cell phone that you already identified that it's giving you pleasure, right? You already identified that this cell phone brings me pleasure. Even if you picked it up occasionally, or even if you picked it up often and it shocked you every now and then, you're not going to put the cell phone down. You're going to keep going back to it because you've already identified and conditioned yourself to make you say, this cell phone brings me pleasure. And that's the problem we have in life, period. With certain situations, we can't move on because we're so programmed. We have so conditioned ourselves to say, this brings me pleasure, so I'm going to ignore the pain that it's causing, period. All right? I even be funny with this. I was at a show this year, and I always drink water because I talk a lot, right? And so one of my friends brought me a smart water, and I don't know if the gas station took the regular smart water out and put some tap water in there, but I drank the smart water. It was disgusting. It was terrible. And I'm just painting this picture to show you the power of associations. All right. And so it was terrible. I was like, this is the most disgusting water in the world. Where'd they get this from? I went to buy a smart water yesterday. Right. I went to buy one. I opened it up and I don't know whether it was nasty or whether it was not. I'm sure it wasn't. But I've already made up in my mind that this smart water is terrible. So when I drunk the smart water, it tastes disgusting because that's the association that I gave with smart water, that is nasty. The reason why you don't put your hand in a fire, all right, is because you already associated yourself and conditioned yourself that fire will bring you pain, period. The reason you do certain things and you go towards certain things is because you already conditioned yourself that certain thing brings you pleasure. And so I'm going to challenge you guys to recondition yourself, all right? Reprogram yourself because you have to if you want to free yourself. And how you do that, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the feeling. There's nothing wrong with the feeling at all. But how you do that, because we're all human. We're all human because you can identify the situation and say, okay, this person or this situation is bringing me pain. But that's not going to stop you from going back to that situation because you already made up in your mind, as I said before, that this person brings you pleasure, that this person is a good person because you're so holding on to the past that you're ignoring the reality of what it really is. All right. Or you're hoping that in the future that it goes back to what they used to give you. And I'm going to just be real with you. Sometimes it doesn't. Until a person makes a change for themselves, it's not. Until a person progresses, it's not. You're holding on to hope, right? You can hold on to hope as long as you want for a person, but if they ain't ready to change, if they don't want to change, guess what? They're not going to change. And so what I want you to do is do this. Recondition yourself, okay? And you have to be extreme with it, okay? You have to be extreme with it. Maybe you write down what will happen to your life if you stay in this situation, if you stay with that drug that you're doing, if you stay in that relationship that's abuse, that's no good for your life. You already identified that. You know that. Maybe you write down what your future may look like if you stay in this situation, okay? Maybe that's not strong enough, right? Maybe you write down what they give you. Maybe you have a picture of what this person gives you. Maybe you put in your phone what this person gives you. You change their name from such and such to pain. You change the name from such and such to black eye. You change your name from such and such to this and to that. So every time that you have the feeling, because you're addicted, that's it. Addiction, people think it's just drugs and all this. No, you're addicted. You're addicted to a feeling. And you already associated this person gives you this pleasurable feeling, so you keep going back to them, regardless of the pain that it causes, right? You're addicted. All right, understand that. And there's nothing wrong with being addicted at times. You need to be addicted to the right things, the good things, right? But you're addicted. You have to admit that. You have to understand that. So every time that urge comes from that feeling, you say, okay, well, I'm going to go back to this person because they can give me this feeling. You have to stop it right there. You have to stop it with something so vivid, something so painful that it makes you not want to move on and go towards that action that you're about to do, right? So like I said, maybe it's a picture of what they're giving you. Maybe it's a note that you've written down and says, okay, look, I know what I'm feeling in my mind because in my unconscious mind, this person gives me pleasure, but let me be real with myself. What's the reality of it? This is the reality, right? Maybe it's that drug that you're about to pick up. And you say, you know what? This is the reality. If I keep doing this, look at everything I'm going to lose. So I have to stop now. I might end my life. Look, maybe you paint a picture of a funeral service if you keep doing that. But it has to be something. I'm not going to tell you what to do because it's on you. I don't know how strong it needs to be, but it needs to be something so strong that it reconditions your mind and changes this situation, right? That you've been saying it's pleasure, it's pleasure, it's pleasure. With drugs, it's the same thing. Why people try drugs because at first what? It's pleasurable, right? It feels good. It's a great feeling. You're addicted to that feeling. But what happens over time? You realize that these drugs cause pain. These drugs break up relationships. These drugs make you lose your job. But you don't care about that because you're so in tune with the pleasure that it's giving you. And that's what you're chasing. You're chasing that high. Why they say you're chasing that high? You're chasing that pleasure. So you ignore all the pain that it's causing because you already programmed yourself. And I keep saying this because I want you to get it. You already reconditioned yourself that this is good for my life. Okay? So now you have to reprogram, re-identify, relabel. And you tell yourself, no, it's pain. This is what it is. It's pain. It's terrible for my life. Because like I said, when you realize that it's pain, you're going to run from it, period. The only reason you run to pain is because you have a wrong association with it. You think that it's pleasure. Somewhere deep down inside, even in your unconscious mind. That's why I say awareness is key. Knowing is key. It's the first step. It's not the only step, but bringing it from your unconscious mind to your conscious mind is key. Because now you're aware. Now you can say, okay, I get it now. This person, this situation is bad. It's pain. So now I have to come up with steps that keep me from going towards it because I already identified and relabeled it. All right. And that's one of the steps to how you move on. Period. You know, people can talk to you all you want to say, you know, this or that person's not, or the drug is bad for you. This person's not good for you. But you're not going to change until you change the association. All right. Till you change the association. And like you said, maybe it's your child. Maybe it's your child. For me, to be honest with you, my son. Right? That made me change a lot of associations because I said, if I don't get some things right, I'm going to lose a relationship with him. If I don't get some things right, I'm going to set a bad path with him. So that made me relabel, recondition, reassociate my life with certain things and make me look at myself and say, my son was that picture. Every time I wanted to do something that was bad for my life that I thought would bring me pleasure, my son popped up. And I said, nope, I can't do it. And I kept reminding myself. And now those situations that I used to think were pleasurable, now I don't even do it. I don't even desire to do it because I've already programmed myself to know it's pain, to know it's not moving me forward, to know it's not creating change, to know it's not creating my happiness, to know it's not creating my joy. So I don't do it anymore. And that's what it takes. And it's going to take consistency. It's going to take dedication. But you can do it. You can do it. But you have to be honest with yourself. All right? You have to be honest with yourself. Change the identity. Change their identity. Change its identity. Whatever it is for you. All right? From pleasure to pain. Because that's how we operate in this world. Pleasure and pain. At the end of the day, that's the root of a lot of decisions for our life. Is this going to bring me pleasure? Is this going to bring me pain? That's why you can have somebody, and we're all different, right? We're all different. And that's why we can have somebody that, say, works a job. I'm just trying to paint pictures for you so you can understand it. Because I know I talked about it a lot. I know it's kind of deep for some of you guys. But that's why we have some people who have jobs, right? And some people associate a job with pleasure, right? It helps you pay the bills. Maybe it's freedom at your job. Maybe it's a source of a sense of accomplishment. Then you can have somebody at that same job that associates that job with pain, right? They feel like they're in prison. They have no creativity. Right? They feel like it's a dead end street. What's the difference? Who's right or who's wrong? Nobody. It's just the association. So you have that person that associates it with pain that probably will change their situation. Right? Say, you know, I can't work this job no more. Then you have somebody at that same job that says, you know what, I'm going to continue this job because this job is great. So think about that tonight. All right? With your toxic situation that you have going on, like I said, relationships, that could be man and woman, that could be addictions. Spend time tonight. And really think about that because now your mind has been open, right? Your mind has been open. You're probably thinking like, man, you're right. Because at the beginning, it was so great. It felt so good. It was awesome. It was incredible, right? That moment, maybe it was just a moment of pleasure. It was great, right? It was awesome. And so now they're pleasure, rightfully so, and they deserve it. But sometimes things change. Things change, and when things change, you have to change your associations. What they mean. That's in friendships too. A lot of things in life. And so I hope that helped you guys a little bit. It's been about 20 minutes. I know I talked a lot. I know it was a lot. Rewind this video if you can.